the Rwandan army, and I mean, they were like exploiting seriously the minerals in Kivu. I remember that because it was official, and you could see trucks and trucks crossing into Rwanda by that time. I'm talking about the year 2000, 2001, 2002. And by that time, I remember there was another coup in Kinshasa, so Mzee Kabila got killed. And it was revealed later on that it was actually a coup made in Rwanda, I mean, to get rid of him because he didn't accept or he didn't follow the agreement that they signed. It continued. I mean, we have now the son, Kabila's son, Joseph Kabila. 2006, we organized the elections, but still in the Kivu, there are killings, I mean, killings of innocent civilians. And we have got now this other group called ADF NALU coming from Uganda. I mean, these people, they're supposed to be the opposition to the Museveni regime, but they're now in Congo. Congo is like their base, and they're killing every single day Congolese civilians. It's carried on 2008. Rwanda created another rebel group called CND. Now, CNDP and the three that you hear now. So it's the same people, same, but modus operandi. And the alibi they give all the time, they say that Tutsis are being killed by other Congolese because they're minorities. But let me clarify to you, I mean, we've got many minority groups in the DRC. And I wouldn't say that Tutsis are the only minority. We've got Pygmies, for example, who are the first inhabitants of the DRC, but they've never had these issues of being killed or being discriminated against. So, and if you ask other communities, other Tutsi communities, they will tell you that that's totally false because they attend schools as we attend. They do business. They're in government right now. Actually, they've been in all the government that we have in the DRC, and they don't really agree with what's going on in the Eastern DRC. I mean, all these groups supported by Museveni and Kagame, they don't agree with them because it's mostly interests that do not really cater for Congolese Tutsis. So it just individual interests, especially made in Rwanda, made by Kagame. But surprisingly, we've seen other countries, I mean, neighboring countries, and also in the broader Africa, people who don't understand this conflict and they don't really, it's like it doesn't really interest them. They don't have any interest in this, in fixing the situation. But I can tell you that the Congo, looking at the geographical position that we occupy, we are like right in the middle. It means, I mean, all the economic transactions linking east to the west, I mean, they need to cross to into the DRC from south to north, same thing. But if we are at the situation where we are right now with the killings and political instability and all that, I don't see an Africa evolving in the next 10, 25 years because we are like a barrier to the development of the continent. And what if the continent itself or the members of this continent mind also what's happening in the DRC and trying to bring in solutions that can actually be on the benefit of the Congolese population. So that has been my worry. Like right now, there are bombs killing people in refugee camps. Can you imagine you being pushed away from your village? Then you go and live in a refugee camp. You survive on agriculture, you survive on farming. But because of this conflict, because of the bombs, you cannot go again to your plantation. So you have to squeeze yourself in these tiny uh, plastic houses that they put. I mean, if you've been in a refugee camp, you understand what I mean. With no basic uh, basic
Yeah,
basic stuff like even a decent toilet, no access to those basic stuff. I mean, you can imagine all the atrocities that these people, my people, have been going through for the past 30 years. We've been born into war. We are growing up into war. And it's like we're gonna die in this thing. Because I mean, the life expectancy now in Congo, for a man, it's like 48 years. For a woman, it's 55. And look at other countries. It's like when you reach 45 in the DRC, it's like you've lived. Now you can die. Like people can say, yeah, we've seen you now. You can go in peace now. It's not normal. It's not. How can we be victim of the miracles that God gave us? And we have not restricted anybody to come officially, get the necessary permits, and start exploiting. We've never refused that. We've never done that. And I try to separate the conflicts. I mean, the Rwanda-Congo conflict between, I mean, politicians and the population, because we've been living with the Rwandan population for the rest of our lives. Our cultures intertwine. I mean, uh, our kings, as they say, our king and the Rwandan king, it's like two brothers. So we cannot separate the two people. And if you can go to the border and see the daily transactions between the two countries, you'll be amazed. You say, but these people are supposed to be killing each other, but why are they exchanging products? I mean, coming from Rwanda and also product coming from the DRC and stuff like that. So we have to separate these two things. It's not like two people fighting. I think it's two political visions that are colliding, and it doesn't make it easier for the people. Now we become the victim, you know. So like myself, I've lived with I've been approached by rebel groups. I mean, when I was younger, my cousin joined rebel groups. Some of them died in those rebel groups. It was the only survive place where you could go and try to strive, because I mean, there was no education. There's no education when there's war. You cannot go to school. You cannot go to work. So the only option is to take a gun and go and fight. But what are you fighting for? If they don't explain to you, why are you fighting? You'll be killing innocent people. You'll be even killing your own people and killing yourself in the meantime. So I was exposed to all these things, and that's why I had to leave the country. And I think it was the best decision by that time. But for me, I don't believe that we should leave the situation as it is, so that people, I mean, young Congolese will be leaving the country again and go and get exploited outside of their own country. I think we need to create an environment where everybody uh, can progress, can strive, can get an education, can get a job, can get a career, and that's what I've been fighting for. Uh, and I think I will always try to advocate for that, and also to try to tell people to understand. I mean, the conflict, because I think there've been a lot of misunderstanding. People don't understand why Congo does not go for it. Why it's still the same thing every now and then. Oh yeah, and I have to tell you, it's only the eastern part. But as they say, if you have an injury on your leg, even if it's tiny, I mean, your whole body, you cannot even move. You cannot put on shoes and that. And that has been the situation of the whole country. Now, we've been affected by the conflict in Eastern DRC, and it has never been easy. Now, let me talk about our army. Our army has been so much infiltrated. Let me tell you again that we've got a lot of influence from Rwanda. But remember back in 1996, when Kabila approached Kagame and Museveni, so they sent trainers to train our army, and even their own people, they got recruited within the DRC army. And it has been very, very difficult to win this war, because all the information, even strategic, critical information that the army has to keep for itself, we find that it's already known on the other side because of all these people. And to clean up the army, I think it takes time. I'm not an army guy, but it takes time. And it takes also a lot of sovereignty and leadership, especially the current leadership has to work a lot on that, so that we have an army that can actually guarantee security and safety of our people. So those have been the issues. I think we're gonna develop more because I mean it's the material is just huge. We'll develop more as we get on the Q&A session. Over to you, Cynthia.
Thank you very, very much, Eric Kasinga. We truly appreciate you taking time to explain to us from a very personal perspective what exactly has been happening in the DRC Congo. And again, we don't take it for granted that people are sharing their personal stories and personal experiences as well on this. And it allows us to have a more personal, in-depth understanding from someone who is going through it, someone whose family was affected, and how currently the situation is, and some of the things that you will start trying to do to try and make the situation better, not just for yourself, but for the young people and the countrymen that you're trying to fight for. Now, you will allow me to welcome our second speaker. And our second speaker is Mohamed Barre from Sudan. Mohamed Barre, welcome.
Thank you so much, Cynthia, and thank you everyone for joining. Actually, let me go back to a little bit deeper in the history of Sudan and to see the causes of the conflict in Sudan. So basically, we have been living through long history of the coups in Sudan, which means we have more than 5 coups along our history. So this has affected and created more militias, rebel groups, and those sorts of things. So by developing, by the time these rebel groups and militia, they're developing their capabilities, and yet it ended with this war of 2023. So basically, the start point was in 2018 when the revolution was emerged in Sudan and everyone was participating, calling for freedom and liberation. So by 2019, the revolution was successful to remove Omar al-Bashir from the power, and then the transitional government was formed between the military and the civilian political parties. So it was basically allies government, which was the core was sharing the power between the military and between the civilian. So there was an agreement for the government, which it was that they can share power between the military and between the civilian. Each one can govern for 18 months, and they started with the first period of the military. So then when the time comes for the militarian to hand over the power, so the coup happened in 2021 in October, and that was the main point which led to the current war in Sudan. So basically, it is a power struggle conflict, as well as also power transition conflict. And this is happening so many times in Sudan. We have this one in 2003, which it was basically was focused in the Darfur region. So back to the 2021, after the coup, there was attempts for bringing back the transitional government from the civilian, and also there was a framework agreement. So this framework agreement was a political process for bringing back the transitional government. So basically, there was incompatible goals between the two functions, civilian and also military. So in terms of damaging the forces. So also the fact is that we have more than one military groups in Sudan. So basically we have Sudanese Army Force, we have Rebel Supportive Force, and rebel groups, we have militias, small militias in various areas. So basically we have many military groups. So the aim was for this framework agreement to bring all these military groups in one in one military to form one national military. And that was the aim of civilian and all Sudanese, that to see that
Vera, are you still with us? Vera? It would seem Vera has dropped off, but I'm sure he's going to be back in just a couple of minutes as he's trying to come back. I'm not sure whether Ahmed is with us. Miss Ahmed, are you with us today?
Okay, thank you. First, I'm not Ikhlas. I'm replaced to Ikhlas related to health problems. I'm Kifaya
Thank you.
Ahmed. I'm graduated from Hack Academy for Local Governance and Conflict Rule of Law in Netherlands. I graduated from Yali, especially in civic leadership. I'm now a work journalist and supervisor for Sudan projected in Radio Tamazuj by supporting by USAID in Sudan project. First, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for all my colleagues, Eric and Mohammed, for the good presentation about the DRC and about the Sudan. And I will continue about what's going on in Sudan. All we know, or all we are aware in youth and women, they are suffering related to war that happening in Sudan from the 14 months ago, and they are still suffering until now. And all the violence and criminal against the humanity that is affected for all the youth and all the women. I think Bera is coming. Maybe he can continue after that. I can continue with him. Bera, Mohammed.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I just got disconnected. Okay. Let me go back to the point. So I was talking basically on the point of the framework agreement, which led to the current war. So basically, I'm just explaining the context and the cause of the war. So then there's a disagreement on this framework agreement between the military and also between the civilian in terms of damaging the forests in one national forest. So basically, there's a rejection from the both sides. Sudanese Army Force refused to join the workshops of the political forces, and also on the other hand, people supportive force also refused to join. So basically, they end up everyone preparing for the war and everyone deploying the troops and preparing themselves for this war. So on 15th of April 2023, there was a first tragic event of this war where Rapid Support Force and RSF they start clashing, and also Sudanese, they are not informed by this war. So basically, we have been surprised by this war. So we just woke up and find that there's a clashes between two factions, between two military groups, and actually this one has continued up to now. So basically, there's a lot of atrocities that happened during this period. Now we have like 1 year and 3 months since the war started, and there's a lot of atrocities happened between from both sides. So basically, the RSF is the most, like we can say, horrific one. So people that are killing, they kill collectively. So in many areas in Sudan, including very recently in Al Jazeera in Wadanu village, so around 150 persons were killed in one day, and also in Al Fashir. So this day there's heavy clashes, people that are dying. So the implication of this war was Sudanese. We are seeing that there's more than 11 million Sudanese who are displaced from their homes in a neighboring country. Some of them, they are succeed to cross the border, and some of them, they are killed in the borders. So this is the case of Western Darfur, Al Jinena. So basically, there was an active genocide happening in that area during the period between August and July. So and many people, they were killed, and some of them they were even buried alive. So actually there was this, it was like a horrific atrocities that happened. Back to the situation right now in Sudan. Actually, the situation is getting worse in terms of the displacement is increasing. The number is going high every day in various areas. So two warring functions, they are struggling in order to take over all states in Sudan. So this including RSF. So whenever they took over any state, they used to loot, they used to rape, they used to do many atrocities in these areas. So there is 7.3 displaced within Sudan. So who they are now running out of food, running out of shelter, and basic needs. Also, there's a horrific situation of children in this war. There's like a horrific numbers of deaths of the children in the IDBs, in the gathering points, and also in the various areas in Sudan, including in Darfur. This is the brief point about the march of the conflict. And back to you, Santia. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. And I think you've explained in great context what exactly is happening in your country. And for someone who's listening in from Kenya, considering what is happening, it almost feels as if you're looking into the future. And I pray to God that is not the pattern or anything close to what is going to happen for our Kenyans who are currently demonstrating the finance bill at the moment. Now, some of the outcomes that we were looking for when we were having this meeting and we were planning this was a couple of things. We're looking at policy recommendations. We're looking at peace building and even stability efforts. We're looking at highlighting that humanitarian crisis in Sudan. I think between Bera and Eric, you've explained and highlighted what it looks like on the ground, the kind of things that are happening. And I love that Kefaya was so passionate. The minute she stepped in, the one thing she spoke about was young people, mothers and children. That's where her heart was. And you can feel the pain that she has. And the very last thing is, how is it possible for us to advocate to end the war in Sudan and the DRC? And I'll start with you, Eric. Briefly, what do you think would be the policy recommendations moving forward for the DRC?
Well, I think, honestly speaking, I think we need to have a straight conversation with Kagame regime and the Kagame administration. They need to be clear with us. I mean, that's why, I mean, the Congolese government have been in talks with the Rwandan government for the past, I think, 20 months, but it has never really reached a very satisfying agreement. But we need to really strengthen this strategy and to be able to reach an agreement so that they tell us really what they want. Because it's not really proper, I mean, to hide behind a rebel group killing innocent people, and then trying to say, yes, I'm here to save people, to save the situation, to save you. It doesn't make sense at all. And as young people, the only thing we need to do is to advocate and to push our government to solve the situation. Me, myself, I don't think we're going to fix it using guns. I don't think we're going to really be successful in doing that. But it's also, it's going to result on sitting on a table, on a round table, and putting all the matters on the table and discussing them and finding the solutions. If it's minerals, bring in your companies, register them. If you want the minerals to be treated or to be processed in Rwanda, that's not a problem. Just abide by the Congolese rules in that matter, in that sector. That's simple. But it's not like you have to create a rebel group, come and kill innocent people, occupying their land and start exploiting. No, it doesn't make sense at all. And they do that on the eyes of the international community. They're not saying anything. They know about these things because even the gold that they take out of the Congo, they don't consume it. No, from Rwanda, it goes to Dubai, it goes to Qatar, it goes to the US. The coltan, same thing. It's transiting in Rwanda, but it's being consumed by big corporations in the Western world. So why they're not saying anything? And that's why I say Kagame is being used. Why is he accepting being used like that? It doesn't make sense to me. So we need to really sit together. We form a block. I think the enemy is one. I don't think it's the enemy, but the people that is on the other side is just one. So we need to make a block. If it's minerals, I know Rwanda needs some revenues. It's something that we can organize as neighbors. If you exploit here, we can process it in Rwanda. Rwanda also gets some exported outside of the continent. I think it would be one of the ways to fix this. I don't think that we have to keep everything for ourselves. We cannot do that. As a matter of fact, between us and Zambia, we've got those kind of partnership, and it's working. You never hear, like in Katanga, there's a rebel group trying to do this and that. No, you'll never hear of that. And on the other side, I mean, on the social side of things, I mean, people, I believe we need to give each other a chance. I mean, to live in peace, strive, to also have a career. And I mean, we have the same right as Congolese. I mean, I don't think we have a certain problem or a particular problem with Tutsi or the Tutsi community. No. We've got a lot of minorities in the Congo. They live in peace. We intermarry. I don't think we have reached that level saying that, yeah, the whole country is against just one rebel group. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much, Eric. And I think I'll ask the same question to Mohammed. Mohammed, what does the policy recommendations look like for you? What are the things that you think you can recommend to try and start with peace, obviously, and then moving forward?
Thank you so much, Cynthia. So regarding to what I recommend, actually, my recommendation is coming from the suffer of the Sudanese, who they are calling for peace and who they have intention in order to have and see peace in Sudan. So basically, it goes for two warring functions to go for mediation and to stop rejecting the invitation for a mediation. So, and this also goes for the international actors. So the secondary actors who are involved in this war. So basically now their numbers increasing and actually everyone has its own interest. So they want to join their interests, especially when it comes to the regional actors. UAE, it's playing a vital role in terms of supporting Rapid Support Force, and then by that support, they used to kill the people, kill civilian, and also atrocities which happen right now. So we are calling also the actors to stop supporting, stop flowing the guns for the two functions, and also to put up pressure on the two functions in order to go for mediation. And this is also going to be a role of our regional institutions like AU, AGAT, and also
institutions in order to take their proper role in order to bring the two functions in the mediation table, and also to advocate for the ceasefire immediately. This is what we are doing as a youth, or as Sudanese youth. We are basically advocating for a ceasefire, and we are advocating also for a peace agreement between the two functions, and yet also to establish Sudan, because that one is collapsed. So we are now in the way of establishing a Sudan, which is new republican. So which means also we have to bring all the people together. This including also the political parties and also the civilians. So and also last one point is that these negotiations and mediation which are taking place in different locations, from Jeddah to Nairobi to Addis and those all areas. So there's actors who they are missing in this mediation table. So especially civil society organizations, youth, and also there's some political parties who they are not involved with. So we need inclusivity. So like everyone must include in this negotiation, because we are in the way of establishing new republics. So everyone must be informed, everyone must participate, everyone must be here, everyone must speak out about this issue. So also when it comes to the two functions negotiations, also the civilian must involve, because those two functions, they are always seeking their own interests. So they're not seeing that there's a population, or there's like 45 million population who they are anti-war. So they are calling for stopping the war and ending the war today before tomorrow. So those voices must be heard between by those two functions. That's why I strongly advocate for involving also civilian and giving chance for youth in order to be a part of these negotiations and this mediation, because at the end of the day, this is our country, and we are all seeking on the interests of our country in order to build the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Eric. And I can see if you have any comments, of course, do not hesitate to share your comments in the comment or in the chat section. You can see there's a little icon on the chat, and we have a lot of representation. I can see South Sudan in the building, and I can also see Rwanda is in the building. Felician, if you can hear us, just wave. I know you are having a bit of a challenge hearing us, but I really hope that you can hear us now. I know Uganda is in the building as well. I can see Mariam Namugaru is also in the building. We appreciate it. Truly, truly appreciate it. Now, one of the things that I'm learning from both Eric and Mohammed is that it looks like everybody is willing, and all they want and they are talking about is finding peace, and more importantly, having a level of mediation and recommendations that will help both countries move forward. And Eric was talking about acting and working like a bloc between DRC, Rwanda, the conversations that they've been having with Zambia. It seems to be working so well. And one of the things that has been written in the comments section is that EAC can be one of the platforms which can be utilized in the case of DRC, which is absolutely true. Because then that is the purpose of communities like the EAC, is to stand in the gap for one of us when there seems to be an issue or a conflict, both internally and externally. We should be able to step in. Now, Eric, briefly, could you explain one of the key issues, especially the implications on young people and women that the war has given? What from your context and from your experience, very briefly, of course, what is the war implication on youth and young women so far? Eric, can you hear me?
Hello, Cynthia? Yeah,
There
I
you
can
go.
be away. Okay, can you just repeat the question, please?
Oh, yes. I was asking, can you just share with us briefly what the implication of the war has been on young women or on youth and women in your country, in DRC Congo?
Oh, it has been a massacre. I mean, women have been raped in a very systematic way. I mean, it's more than 2 million women raped in the DRC. So rape has been used as a tool of war. I mean, you find these women mutilated, being raped by maybe 20 men at the same time. And I think if you've read about this particular doctor called Dr. Mukwege, has been working on these issues, and he was able to establish a center together for these women. But I can tell you that up to this day, women are still being raped in Congo, like on a daily basis. And we're talking about women aging, I mean, from 8 years, as young as 8 years old, to the old women, old mamas. I mean, they've been systematically raped in Eastern DRC, in different villages. You talk about North Kivu, South Kivu. And apart from that, others have been kept as slaves for these rebels in the forest. They stay there, they cook for them, and they endure all the atrocities that you can name. So it has been really, really difficult for women. And I think the men, it's all about the killings. I mean, when they see a man, I mean, it's death penalty. You have to die. And for women, you keep on dying every day. So they keep you alive, but you have to obey to anything that they have to put on your body, and mutilations and cuts. They do all these rituals on women. It's really, I don't know what the word that can describe, I mean, what women have endured in the DRC for the past 30 years. But if you come, really, you come to, to Eastern DRC, you'll be able to see how this gender has been suffering. It has been really, there are many reports. If you read the report 2050 of the UN, you'll be able to see in details what have happened to women. And all the actors are in that report. You'll see names of generals, officers, colonels, either from rebel groups, even from our own army, because as I told you before, our army was made of a mixture of different rebel groups. So it's difficult to really pinpoint who did that, who's the responsible person. Is it on the responsibility of the army or its individual responsibilities? So it's really tricky. And I think when we talk about genocide, I mean, the Rwandan genocide, the Jewish genocide, people should also talk about the Congolese genocide, you know.
Okay. Thank you so much. And again, listening to this story is it's quite devastating, especially if you live outside of the Sudan and if you live outside of Congo. Hearing these stories, it's a bit different from what we actually see in media and what makes it at least out of those countries. But we appreciate that you're taking time to walk us through. And I know it's not easy. It's not easy to have these conversations, but we truly appreciate that you're taking time to have these conversations with us. Bera, from your experience, what are some of the implications of the war on young people and women?
Well, thank you so much, Sia. And actually, there's a lot of implication, and especially when it comes to the women. So the victim on this war, they are women. So we can see that the most of the displaced people, around 11 million who they crossed the border to another countries or to other countries, they're from women and children, and also youth. So basically, also the atrocities that happen, including raping, sexual violence, and those all things just happening as a daily bread in many areas in Sudan, this including Darfur. And in fact, there is a lack of communication where this all information can be out for the media. And also, there's no media attention for the Sudanese war. And this was is very sad for the media houses, for the big media houses or regional media houses, who they can intervene, and also trying to bring out the information to the world in order to to start like intervention, especially when it comes to such these atrocities that's happened for a year and 3 months. So also on this implication, youth are involved. So most of them, they are now forcibly recruited in the two functions. So especially RSF, they used to recruit youth, and they end up losing their lives. So every day there's like a huge number of youth who they're losing their life in this senseless war. So just being in the front line, fighting in the in part of RSF, so they're losing their life, and actually this one is bringing a lot of distraction for us, even when we are hearing such this news day by day. So, and sometimes we may see that our loved we're losing them. So basically, we lose a lot of people. So families and friends. So who they are also part of these two functions. So we are hearing that every day by day that there's someone who died, and actually we are feeling very exhausted and also very frustrating for losing people in senseless war, and yet this implication is coming on becoming more. So basically, what I can say is that the implication is huge, and especially for women and for youth, and we need also for the rest of the world to hear the story of the violations that happen for the women and for the youth in Sudan. Back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much, Mohammed. I appreciate that. Now, while all this is happening, one of the things that most people ask is, what is the way forward? Because it's one thing to be in that space where you can see what is happening. It's another to even go a step further, and having been there, to lose family, to lose people you care about. And then now you notice that there's a gap, and you probably don't want to stand in that gap. The question to you, Mohammed and Eric, is what steps are there, especially for peace building and even stability efforts, even in the littlest and most smallest of ways? Can you see any of those steps happening, and how do they look like from your perspectives? We can start with you, Mohammed. So the peace building and the stability efforts, are you seeing them happening, and how are we able to make them, or even try and stand in the gap and create a space for them to prosper?
Well, actually, there is small steps that taking place right now, but actually we need to increase these steps. So, since the escalation of the war in the ground is increasing the violations and also the number of deaths, so that means we need to increase the steps. So there is small steps that are taking place, but actually we need to increase the steps by forcing the two functions in order to come to the mediation table. This is the first condition that must come to the mediation table, and then the negotiation, and allow the negotiation to take place. So this will be the first, and this also can be as a collective work. So it's not only only Sudanese can do this one. Also, the regional actors, regional bodies like AU and IGAD, and also international actors, so can also support on this on this process. So and also a part of that, also cutting the support, or the support of the actors who they are interested from the war in Sudan. So it is also one of the steps that must be done to ensure that those two functions that are going to mediation, because when they are seeing that there's a flow of the support coming from the region, from the international actors, so actually this one is motivating them more in order to continue on this senseless war, and yet no one is going to be in the mediation. So what I see is from my perspective, and also from the efforts that youth they are carrying out, Sudanese youth they are carrying out, is that to bring the two functions in mediation, and also to be involved in this mediation. Also a part of that, to make a Sudanese voice to be heard globally and also regionally. So this one will let us to have good steps towards peace building, and also to have at least to maintain the negative peace, and then we can see how we can maintain the positive peace later by having ceasefire. Back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much, Vera. And I think even having platforms like this, where we're discussing conversations, very bold conversations on democracy and moving forward as far as the region's stability is concerned, is also a way that we can try and make or foster some peace building and stability efforts as well. Eric, what's your take on the peace building and stability efforts in your country, in the DRC Congo?
I truly think we need to get the civil society involved. For all the discussions that have been taking place, it's only politicians meeting other politicians, and no solution has ever been reached. So I would really suggest that we involve communities. We bring in all the communities living in those areas where there's conflicts together, and also invite representatives, also the civil society from Rwanda, from Uganda, so that we find a solution that can benefit our different people. And also, you should know that the UN mission was the biggest, is the biggest in the DRC. I mean, in the world is that of the DRC. We're talking about $4 billion a year that they've put into this mission, the MONUSCO mission, but no solution. I mean, you find them with their helicopters, with their 4x4 cars, with their guns, roving the streets, but there's no solution that they bring on the table. So I think it's high time that we change the narrative and we change the ingredients. So it means bring other people on board so that we find the solution ourselves. I don't think that the solution is going to come from Europe, from America, from the United Nations. I don't know. And I think ourselves, we have to find a solution. We are brothers. Apart from everything that is going on, we are brothers. We can talk as brothers and find a solution and leave really politicians out of this, because they've failed dismally to fix the situation. It's high time that we discuss with the civil society on both, Rwanda and the DRC. And I think Uganda also have to be part of this conversation. Yeah, that's, I think, can be the beginning of finding the solution.
Thank you very much. I know Kefaya has said that she's able, and she's gotten a stable network, can chime in. Kefaya?
Yes, I'm hear you.
Wonderful. Now, for you, I just want to know, what does peace building and stability efforts look like for you, and how do you think we are able to foster that?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity, and I'm sorry for the corruptions related to network problems. Related to me, the stability of peace network and in Sudan, it is needed to compromise a big chances for all the Sudanese to dialogue and sit together to negotiate about what is going on and what's the challenge that is facing them inside the Sudan and inside the neighboring country. The second thing also, it is to provide a comprehensive mental health service. It's essential to address the trauma experienced by both youth and women. And this including consulting and supporting groups and community-based mental health program to avoid and to break the cycles of violence against the woman and against the youth, and to provide the stability of peace. The third thing for me, it is the ensuring that youth and women are included in peace building and decision-making process at all levels in the processes. And participation at a key, and a development is the sustainable and inclusive solutions for all the conflict, because all of them, it is the most one that is infected of the war, and it is became refugee and IDP camps in the neighbor country and inside the Sudan. The third thing, it is to doing online or social media campaigning to try to fight hate speech between the Sudanese community and between the people who still live in Sudan and people who live in neighboring country. And the most important point for all, it is supporting the project that enhance the capability of youth and women to become a part of all the activities that's going on, and all the negotiations and all the initiatives that it's working to bring all the two parties of work to sit together and to negotiate about the ceasefires and about the new planning of future of Sudan. And if we participated like youth and women in Sudan in all this process, I'm very sure from my insights, the sustainability of peace, it will become sure, and it will become effective more than the past one. The other thing, it is the raising the voice of women and youth, and to hearing all the international community about their issue and about the violation that they are facing in the Sudan from the two parties of the world. And the last thing is to working together to advocating to pressure the international community, to pressure the two parties of war to stop the violations and the criminal against the civilians and against the women and youth, and to trying to back the tables of negotiations to work for a good future of Sudan. Back to you.
Thank you very, very much, Kefaya. You're very, very articulate on what peace building and stability looks like and what effort should be made towards this. And of course, we appreciate everybody in the comments section. I know Al-Samani is asking whether it's possible to open the discussion to the participants. And of course, I opened the chat system to just pitch in your ideas and conversations that you'd like to participate in. We have about 10 minutes before we call it a day, but Al-Samani, if you'd like to chime in on some of the peace building and stability efforts, we'd really appreciate that as well. Al-Samani? Idris?
Jesse, you unmuted yourself. I'm not sure that you can speak.
But if not, do share your opinions, of course, in the Asmani, if you're able to speak, kindly do. Okay, no problem, that's fine. I think we're going to wind up with just the last conversation, which is on the advocacy to end for war in Sudan and the DRC. And I think it highlights a lot more on what peace building and stability looks like and what efforts need to be made. Those two are definitely marrying. And from the conversations we've had, we've seen some of the recommendations that have been made. It's us being able to act as a bloc, as the East African community, and examples that Eric gave. It's working between the DRC, Rwanda, Kenya, Uganda, Zambia, all these countries that are in together, and Tanzania as well, and looking at mediations and recommendations of the UAE stepping into the gap and helping us figure that out. More importantly, it's the increasing the steps on peace and stability. What does that look like? We're looking at civil society being involved and taking a bigger role, not just stepping back and allowing politicians to just sit and have a conversation, but more importantly, to participate and be brought to the table. I know Mohammed spoke about having civilians involved in the conversation on how to end the war, and more importantly, the policies that are being advocated for, recommended for the country. Now, I will allow Eric and Mohammed, and of course, Kefaya, to wind up with their thoughts as young people in Africa, as young people who are looking for a better version of their country, who want to sit and say, one day I thought I spoke, and after I spoke, this is what I did for my nation and for the continent that is Africa. So we are looking at a unified place where people from across all walks of life in the continent are able to work together to build a stronger, more stable continent for all of us. Because as you noticed, all of us who are on this panel today or who are having conversations are very young people. So we have promising ideas, we have dreams and visions of what our continent and what our country will look like. So I will take turns, and I'll start with Eric, then we'll go to Mohammed, and then we'll go to Kefaya. What does your ideal country look like, and what can we all do to get there?
Well, for me, my ideal country, I mean, the ideal Congo, is where every single young Congolese has a future. Because if you do a census, you go and ask Congolese and tell them, I mean, where do you see yourself in the future? They will tell you, I see myself in France, I see myself in Belgium, I see myself in America. So nobody sees their future in the Congo. So we don't believe in our country anymore. And that's so heartbreaking for me. That's why I'm saying, I mean, the ideal country for me is where every young Congolese see a future, believes in this country. Apart from the potential, because me, I believe the potential that we have is the people. It's not minerals, because minerals they will finish at some point because these are not renewable. But the people, I believe in Congolese people. I believe in their creativity. I believe in their intelligence, ingenuity, and I think we need to be pushing for that. And that's the lobby I do every day, talking to young people, telling them to believe in themselves and to believe in their country. Nobody else is going to fix this country apart from ourselves. So that's the ideal for me. And I think if we have peace, if we have stability, anything is possible.
May I come next?
Eric, are you done? Eric?
Yes, Cynthia, I'm done. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mohammed Barra, go ahead.
Well, the ideal Sudan that I see is a Sudan where there's justice, there's a peace, and there's stability. Also, there is justice, which is holding all the perpetrators account for their crimes that committed along the history. So it's not just going to be for the recent war, so because we have a deep history of impunity, and that's why. So actually, me myself, I love my country, and as my colleague Eric said, that he believes in Congolese. Me too, I believe in Sudanese, and actually, I see a lot in Sudanese. So and I see that future of Sudan, which is going to last, by stability and peace. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Kefaya, you're still on.
Thank you for the opportunity again. The idea that I want to say in Sudan, it is the first thing it comes the truth when we are sitting as like a Sudanese community, to tell the truth and to tell the negotiations about the grassroots, about our problem and about our conflict for a long time ago, and when we will find where our challenge and where our strugglings and how we can fix it that things. The second thing, it is to seeing the Sudan's with the mercy and how we can forgiveness each others and how we can forgive each ourselves and how we can mercy the people who hurt us in one day and who using the violence against us like a Sudanese community. Then it is the come or looking at the Sudanese with a justice. That justice can bring the right for all the people who lost in their spiritual and their rights and who is become a refugee inside the Sudan and refugee in the neighboring country. And that's the justice who can lead all the Sudanese with the respectful of the diversity and respectable the rights of women and rights of the youth. Then the last stake is welcoming the peace and the peaceful community with love and with coexisting and with sustainability peace. And with focusing on inclusive strategy, we can begin to address this challenge and work towards bright and work for community and for Sudan's more sustainability and more peaceful for all the people who live with a different background, with the different diversities, who can live with safe and with peaceful way. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Kefaya, for chiming in on your thoughts. And I love that you're very, very passionate, again, purely because of women and young people. I can be a bit selfish sometimes when it comes to advocating for women and young people. And at that point, it allows for me to escalate and bring to perspective what that looks like. I want to take this opportunity to thank very much our panelists. We had Eric Kasinga from DRC, who was sharing with us on youth engagement in civil spaces and the humanitarian crisis in the DRC. We have, of course, Mohamed Berra, who was sharing from Sudan, the peace efforts, the atrocities, and the human crisis in Sudan. And of course, we had Kefaya, who was talking about the war implications on the youth and women. Having conversations, all this led by young people in their diverse countries, in the DRC Congo, in the Sudan, and of course, myself representing Kenya. It shows how possible it is for young people to come together and want to charge the nation and lead a better continent for all of us. We want to see peace in DRC, we want to see peace in Sudan, and if they're not being pushed and if these conversations and agendas are not spearheaded by the youth themselves, then we will completely have lost the plot. I love how Kefaya is talking about the diversity, respect for rights, coexisting, ensuring that there's love and coexisting across. There has to be a lot of collaborations, not just within the country, but externally, where young people stand in the gap and young people are the faces of what peace will look like across all these countries. And really humbled to be in the presence of such incredible people who are pushing for this as well. Again, my name is Cynthia Mwangi. I've been very humbled to moderate this session, and we hope to have more conversations on democracy moving and making sure that there in this region and there's stability in this region. Of course, all these people are available on their social media platforms, inshallah. And if they're not, they will drop in an email and how they communicate as well for more conversations on regional stability and having young people that is pushing for peace across the country. At the moment, there's a lot that is happening in Kenya as well. It's quite a terrible theme, and we're hoping that nothing escalates from where it is. So if you're in whichever country, of course, keep up with what is happening in Kenya and see how things are moving. We want to take this opportunity, as Cynthia and the entire team, to thank you for taking your time to listen to us. And we look forward to more conversations of this nature. So from me and the team, thank you very much and God bless. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Cynthia, and thank you, everybody. I mean, to attend this beautiful meeting. I think if we keep on having such conversations, it's going to be a great thing. It's going to be a stepping stone into finding solutions for our different regional problems. And I thank also Bera for inviting me, and also Idris. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And of course, thank you, Ding from South Sudan as well. Truly acknowledged your presence. And Mariam from Uganda.
Thank you, everyone, and have a good day. Thank you, Samani, for joining.
Thank you for the opportunity, and God safe.